I knew something was off the second she killed the engine. We'd just finished some overcooked hot dogs and those stale marshmallows she bought from a clearance bin. The fire was burning low, not out yet, and I figured she'd toss me some cheesy life talk or ask about school. But instead, she jammed this crappy multi-tool into my hand, half rust, half plastic, and pointed into the dark like she was done with me. "Go get actual firewood," she said. "Not that wet junk near camp. You want to act grown? Then be grown." My name's Grant. I was 17, and we were somewhere in the Bitterroot Mountains, northwest Montana. My mom, Deborah, told my dad we were bonding, which was the first red flag. She never used that word unless she wanted people to think she was trying. That trip wasn't about bonding. It was about leaving a trail of excuses. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I shoved the tool in my hoodie pocket and stepped off past the fire ring, figuring this was just another one of her little tests, the kind where she made a point, then backed off, and acted like everything was fine again. The air had that dry, sharp cold that bites your nose. Every step crunched over pine needles and dead leaves. I grabbed what I could, dry branches, wrist-thick sticks, and tried to keep a line of sight back to the firelight. My phone had 28% left, but no bars, just the emergency icon. No map, no flashlight, just that weak screen glow and a gut full of bad instincts. When I turned back, I heard voices near the tent, hers calm and steady, and someone on speaker, maybe one of her sisters. I couldn't catch the whole conversation, just her tone, way too casual. "If he can't handle a night out here," she said, "he'll figure it out the hard way." I froze. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't some lesson. That was her wrapping things up. I stepped back into camp and saw it instantly. The tent was half collapsed like someone stomped it in a rush. The cooler was shut tight and already in the trunk of her SUV. My duffel sat on the dirt like a dropped grocery bag. I laughed like it was a setup. "Okay," I said. "You're messing with me." She didn't laugh, didn't even flinch. I reached for the passenger door, and she peeled my fingers off like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum. Then the engine kicked on. Headlights hit me straight in the chest as she backed up slow, turned, and started down the dirt road. Gravel cracked under the tires. I stood there gripping that stupid pocket tool and a bundle of sticks, my bag half zipped at my feet. My phone screen faded to black in my hand. Cold air slid under my sleeves. And that's when I knew she was gone for real. When the sound of the SUV finally disappeared, the quiet rushed in so hard it felt aimed at me. No wind, no engine, just that empty mountain silence that presses on your ears. I stood there gripping my duffel like it might magically turn into a ride home if I held on tight enough. I told myself she'd come back, that this was one of her twisted lessons and she'd loop around once I proved whatever point she thought she was making. I stayed by the fire ring until my calves burned and my knees locked up. I kept looking down the road, waiting for headlights. Nothing came. I took inventory like that would fix it. 2 small water bottles, a couple peanut butter crackers smashed flat, a thin sweatshirt that already smelled like smoke, a crinkly poncho, and that pocket tool that barely cut twigs. No sleeping bag, no jacket, no food worth counting. I laughed out loud, this sharp, broken sound that didn't match how my face felt. My body was trying to dump panic before it swallowed me whole. Her voice kept replaying. "He'll figure it out." The way she said it, calm, practiced, made my stomach twist. Like she'd rehearsed that line in advance. I tried walking down the dirt road, thinking I could follow it out. In the dark, every turn looked the same. My phone light threw this weak cone maybe 8 feet ahead, and beyond that, it was just shapes waiting to trip me. Rocks looked like drop-offs. Trees leaned in too close. After a few minutes, I stopped. I knew enough to know wandering blind would kill me faster than staying put, so I dragged branches into a half circle and wedged myself against a thick tree, knees to my chest, arms locked tight. The first night wasn't really sleep. It was passing out for 10 minutes at a time, then snapping awake at every crack and rustle. My teeth chattered so hard my jaw ached. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured my mom at home, showering, putting on pajamas, crawling into a warm bed, like this was just another Saturday night. Day 2. The light felt like an insult. Everything hurt, my back, my neck, my hands. I forced myself to slow down and think. Small sips of water, tiny bites of food. I remembered a Boy Scouts meeting I barely listened to years ago. Don't wander, find water, stay near something recognizable. I followed the sound of moving water and found a narrow stream cutting through rocks. The water was so cold it burned my fingers numb, but it was clear. It was real. I drank carefully and stuck close to it after that. The sun moved slow, then dropped again, and the cold came back harder. I wrapped the poncho around my legs and sat awake, counting breaths, listening to my own heartbeat. Hunger faded into this dull ache that felt far away, like it belonged to somebody else. By day 3, everything felt heavy. Standing took effort. Thinking took effort. I stopped checking my phone to save power, even though part of me wanted to watch it die just so I didn't have to hope anymore. By day 4, the phone was dead anyway. A useless black mirror in my pocket. My legs shook when I stood. I followed a thin trail near the stream, because pushing through brush felt like fighting the mountain itself. Every step felt like it might be the one where I went down and didn't get back up. Then I heard voices, real ones, laughter, the clink of gear. It didn't sound like my brain messing with me. I yelled before I even thought about it. I yelled until my throat burned and my voice cracked apart. 3 hikers came into view, wearing bright jackets and carrying packs that looked like they knew what they were doing. The way they looked at me told me everything. I looked wrong. I looked like something they couldn't ignore. One of them didn't ask questions. He pulled out a foil emergency blanket and wrapped it around my shoulders. Another grabbed a handheld radio and started talking fast. I caught pieces of it. Minor, found near the stream, abandoned, possible neglect. Those words landed hard, cold, heavy, exact. I let myself sink down onto a rock while the blanket crinkled around me and the radio crackled on, because I finally knew someone else was handling it now. They drove me down to the ranger station with the heater blasting, but I couldn't get warm. My body felt borrowed, like I was wearing someone else's skin wrong. My hands shook so bad I couldn't hold a paper cup of cocoa without sloshing it over the rim. It tasted watery anyway. I didn't care. I just needed something hot touching me, so I knew I was still alive. A ranger sat across from me at a metal desk and asked for my parents' phone numbers, just like that. Calm voice, neutral face. My stomach flipped hard, like he'd asked me to grab a live wire. I stared at the floor for a second too long, then gave him my Aunt Renee's number. I didn't even explain. I already knew if my mom got that call, she'd twist this into me being the problem before the sentence was finished. Renee showed up in her old Tacoma an hour later. She came through the door fast, hair everywhere, eyes red and wild, like she'd been running on fumes in fear. The second she saw me, she dropped her keys and pulled me into a hug so tight my ribs hurt. She kept saying my name, Grant, 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 like she could rewind the last 4 days if she said it enough times. In the parking lot, she kept scanning the road like my mom might roll in screaming any second. Her hands shook when she unlocked the truck. I noticed it and hated that I noticed it. On the drive to her place, she finally told me the part that lodged in my gut and never left. Deborah had called her the day after the camping trip. Calm, casual, said I'd stormed off after a fight to punish them. Said I was being dramatic and needed time to cool down. Told everyone I'd come home when I was done making a point. Nobody filed a missing person report. Nobody called the park. Nobody drove back to check. My mom and dad went to work like it was a normal week. I stared out the window at the passing trees and felt something hard settle in my chest. Renee believed me, but even she softened it. She used words like miscommunication and family mess, like I'd misplaced my phone instead of being left alone in the mountains. I didn't argue. I was too tired to fight language. My dad stayed mostly quiet when he finally showed up at Renee's house. He asked if I was okay. He didn't ask what Deborah did. He didn't say sorry. He stood there like a man hoping time would sand the edges off something sharp. He wasn't the one who drove away, but he helped her get away with it. Silence can do that. I lived with Renee after that. I went back to school, did chores, picked up a part-time job. On the outside, I played normal. On the inside, everything stayed dialed up. I flinched at car doors slamming. I woke up sweating, convinced I heard tires on gravel outside. Every night took too long to settle. Deborah texted sometimes like nothing big happened. Little check-ins, fake concern. Like I was the one dragging things out by not replying. I never answered. The breaking point wasn't one huge fight. It was the constant push. Family dinners, phone calls, people saying, "She's still your mom." Like that was a magic eraser. Like forgiveness was something I owed just to keep the peace. When I turned 18, I took extra shifts at a grocery warehouse. Graveyard hours, stacking pallets until my arms burned. I saved every dollar I could. I didn't announce it. I just packed my stuff, thanked Renee, and left. I moved to Tacoma, rented a room with 2 other guys, and shut the door behind me like I was sealing something off. My room in Tacoma was small, plain, half basement, with a weird stain on the carpet and a vent that rattled when the heat kicked on. But it was mine. I worked early shifts at a chain hardware store, unloading freight, stocking shelves, keeping my head down. I didn't talk much, didn't go out, didn't bring people back. It wasn't about fun. It was about distance. I blocked everything tied to Deborah, her number, her emails, all the social accounts, even the ones she barely used. I stopped going to holidays and skipped out on anything extended family related. Someone always tried to hand me the "she's still your mother" speech like it was a damn gift card. I didn't want it. Late at night, I'd scroll forums for people like me, kids, now adults, whose parents did messed up stuff and then demanded loyalty on top of it. I posted my story once from a throwaway. No names, no dates, just the facts. 17. Left in the mountains. No report filed. Nobody came looking. Strangers called it what it was, without blinking. Abandonment, neglect, abuse. Not tough love. Not a misunderstanding. Just truth in plain clothes. That helped more than I thought it would. 5 years after the mountain, I was on shift, stocking a shelf full of caulk and paintbrushes when I heard the sliding doors open. I didn't look up right away. Normal customer noise, but something in me knew. Before my brain caught up, my whole body locked up. Deborah. I didn't have to see her to recognize her. There's a tension some people carry, like static before lightning. She had it. I looked up, and there she was, smaller than I remembered, grayer, like life had been shaving her down piece by piece. But the eyes were the same, cold, measuring, like she was scanning for damage and angles. She walked straight down my aisle like she belonged there, like 5 years of silence hadn't passed. Her hand shook when she picked up a basket, probably to look casual. Then she saw me. "Grant," she said, soft. Testing the name like it still belonged to her. That chest-tight feeling hit me like a punch. Same as the mountain. Like I couldn't get enough air into my lungs. I wanted to walk into the stockroom and disappear, but my feet held. Then she started crying, loud, messy, right there under the LED lights next to aisle 14. Customers turned to look. One lady with a kid backed up. My supervisor peeked around the corner and gave me that look. Handle it. Don't make a scene. Of course. That was still her move. Blow it up in public so I'd look like the heartless one for not hugging it out. I walked her outside, past the returns counter, through the loading zone where the air smelled like wet cardboard and diesel. I stopped just past the dock, behind the dumpsters, not for privacy, for containment. She wiped her face with the sleeve of a puffy jacket and started spilling. I was under so much stress. Things with your dad, the money. My mom never taught me how to do this. I just wanted you to be strong. I let her talk. Then I asked the one question I'd never asked out loud. "Why didn't you call the park?" She blinked. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" No answer. "You went home and slept. Why?" She started to answer twice and dropped it both times. Nothing clean came out. I stayed calm, flat voice. "If you show up here again or contact my roommates, I will file a report. I'm not 17 anymore." Something flickered in her face. Anger, sharp and fast. Then it dropped into desperation. For a couple weeks, it stayed quiet. No texts, no surprise visits. I almost let myself believe it was over, that maybe somehow I'd drawn a line deep enough to hold. Then the emails started. weird addresses I didn't recognize, subject lines like please or just talk, like this was some heartfelt reunion story. The messages were these massive, suffocating blocks of text, no paragraphs, no breaks, just a wall of words like she wanted to fill my screen until I drowned in it. She wrote like the mountain was some shared trauma we'd survived together, like it wasn't something she created on purpose. She said things like, I didn't know what else to do, and your father never supported me, which I knew really meant he stopped covering for me. She slipped little knives between the sad lines. You ran away. You've ruined the family. I suffered too. Same game, new tools. I blocked the first email, then came another from a different address. Then another. She didn't stop. She just got sneakier. One day I opened LinkedIn at work to check a message from a customer. Right there in my inbox, a new connection request. Deborah. Her profile photo was 5 years old and filtered, but the headline read, Proud Mom of 2. The message said, so proud of everything you've accomplished. Like she'd ever been part of it. Then she found my roommate's girlfriend on Instagram, sent her a long, messy DM about how I was isolating, unwell, and being influenced by dangerous people online. That one hit different, not because I believed it, but because it was spreading. My life felt made of paper, and she was poking holes in the walls. One night after a 12-hour shift, I sat on the edge of my bed, still in my work boots, phone in my hand, thumb hovering over the screen. I had the non-emergency police line pulled up. My heart thumped like I was doing something wrong, like calling was betrayal. Her voice echoed in my head. Don't be dramatic, don't make trouble, don't embarrass the family. But I wasn't 17 anymore. I was tired of having to earn basic safety. So I called. I told the officer I'd been abandoned in the Bitterroot Mountains at 17, that the parent who did it had found me again and wouldn't stop reaching out after I told her to stop. I expected some brush off. That's a family matter, or try to block her. But he didn't say that. He said, document everything. Screenshots, dates, times, witnesses if possible. Then come in and file. I treated it like a work task, created a folder on my phone, uploaded backups to the cloud, wrote down every contact attempt in notes with timestamps. Even had that shaky video my coworker took the day she cried in aisle 14, her yelling, me not responding, the store lights humming overhead. A week later, I sat in a small gray office across from a cop at a desk that wobbled every time he typed. He didn't ask for drama. He just wanted the facts. I gave him everything. He typed, mother, continued harassment after abandonment as a minor. Seeing those words show up on a screen hit me harder than I expected. Not because they were dramatic, but because they were real. They existed now, somewhere outside my head. I walked out of the station knowing one thing for sure. If she crossed the line again, it wouldn't just be my word floating in the air anymore. A few days later, my phone rang, and I knew it was bad before I even answered. Renee sounded tired in a way I hadn't heard before, like she'd been bracing herself for impact and finally got hit. She didn't ease into it. Deborah came to my house, she said, unannounced. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. Renee told me Deborah had pounded on the door like it was an emergency, yelling that I'd sent the police after her. She kept repeating the same line over and over, louder each time, like volume could turn it into truth. I was making him strong. Nobody made me strong. That was when Renee finally told me the old family story nobody liked to say out loud. When Deborah was about 9, their own mom left her at a city park as punishment for talking back. No watch, no phone, no idea how long she'd be there. Their mom went shopping, sat for coffee, came back hours later, smiling like she'd just taught a valuable lesson. Deborah grew up calling that toughening up. Hearing it didn't excuse anything she did to me, but it explained the calm in her voice on the mountain. That wasn't panic. That wasn't rage. That was belief. This wasn't a one-time screw-up. It was a ritual she trusted. She wasn't just cruel. She was committed. A few days after that call, an email popped up asking for one real conversation with no yelling. I knew better. Every instinct in me said no. But I also knew I needed to say some things where witnesses existed. I agreed, but I picked the place. A busy public park in the middle of the day. Joggers, dog walkers, parents with strollers. I wasn't giving her a quiet corner to rewrite history. She showed up holding a coffee with both hands like it was the only thing keeping her steady. She looked smaller than I remembered, shoulders hunched, mouth tight. She launched right into her childhood story. The park, the waiting, the lesson. She told it like it was proof she deserved sympathy. Then she said it, that she gave me the same gift. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't soften it either. You wanted me to survive, I said. So you created the danger yourself. That's not love. That's control. For once, she didn't have a smooth answer ready. Her mouth opened, then closed. She stared past me like the words hadn't landed where she expected. I laid out my rules clear and slow, like I was reading a sign. Stop contacting me. Stop reaching out to people in my life. Get real therapy that doesn't involve dragging me back into your mess. I told her the next contact would go straight into the report file. No warnings, no discussions. She tried to step closer. I stepped back. Her face went through it fast. Anger first, sharp and familiar. Then fear. Then something small and brittle. She looked around at the people passing by, realizing she didn't control the room. I turned and walked away without waiting for permission. Halfway to my car, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A new message, fresh email address. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew what it meant. She wasn't done. 2 nights after that park meeting, my roommate knocked on my door, holding out his phone like it was something toxic. "Dude," he said, "you need to see this." It was a long message from Deborah, sent through some random Facebook account that looked half fake. She wrote like they were old friends, said I was struggling, claimed I ran away from home and was being manipulated by unstable people online. It read like a warning, like she was planting seeds, hoping someone else would carry her water. I logged into the same old forum where I had posted anonymously years back. I pulled up the thread and edited my post. I didn't name her, didn't give out personal info. I just added detail. 17, 4 nights alone, no missing person report, found by hikers, brought to a ranger station. That part mattered because it could be verified. Then I did something I'd been avoiding. I recorded a short video. Didn't show my face, just my hands around a chipped coffee mug on the kitchen counter, voice low but clear. I said the basic facts. A parent left me alone in the mountains as discipline, then told the family I stormed off. Never reported me missing, never looked back. I posted it expecting a handful of views. It took off faster than I could track. People shared it, commented, asked the same question over and over. How could a parent do that and still walk around like a normal citizen? I answered honestly. Because families hide it. Because shame sticks to the kid. Because you're trained to protect the image, even while you're bleeding underneath it. Strangers didn't argue. They didn't call me dramatic. They called it what it was. Abuse. Without hesitation. That mattered. Deborah found it, of course. She tried to defend herself in the comments, made it worse instantly. She dropped the same line she said that night by the fire. He'll figure it out if he wants to survive. Like it was proof she was strong, tough, good old-fashioned parenting. But the comment section turned. You could feel it shift. Less, it's complicated, and more, what is wrong with you? I didn't go after her. I didn't post her name. I didn't send people to her page. But I did leave one honest review on a site linked to her side business, a candle and gift basket thing she'd been running for years. I didn't rant. I didn't insult her. I just wrote the truth in clean, plain language. The person running this shop has a documented history of child abandonment and neglect. She has publicly admitted parts of it. Be aware. That was it. Then I stepped back and let things fall the way they were always meant to. I didn't invent damage. I didn't add fire. I just stopped holding the tarp over her mess. And the lies she lived on finally started to crack. The fallout didn't hit all at once. It came slow, in weird little waves. I saw screenshots first, customers asking Deborah public questions on her business page. Not about products, about me, about the story. She didn't have polished answers for those. Then came the refund demands. A couple people filed complaints about undelivered orders. I didn't celebrate, but I did save the court documents when someone forwarded the small claims filings. That's when I knew it was real. She wasn't just embarrassed, she was exposed. Family members who used to stay quiet started calling Renee, asking what really happened up in the Bitterroot Mountains. That word, really, carried more weight than they meant. Deborah lost the only thing she ever valued more than being right: control of the narrative. Logan, my younger brother, texted out of nowhere, first time in years. He didn't come charging in as some big defender. He was confused, nervous, still stuck halfway in her world. He asked if what people were saying was true. I gave him the simplest version. I was left out there. No report was filed. Those are facts. He didn't argue. He just went quiet for a while. Then he admitted something I didn't expect. He remembered her changing the story, depending on who she talked to. That was the closest thing to validation I was ever going to get from him. I took it for what it was. A few weeks later, Renee called with the news I'd been half expecting. Deborah had what the hospital called a mental health crisis. The online heat, the lost money, the family questions, something cracked. They held her on a short psych hold and released her with a treatment plan. Renee asked if I'd talk to her. I felt the old family script start to kick in. Be the bigger person, now's your chance to fix it. But I didn't let it take the wheel. I said yes. One call. Speakerphone. Renee present. Deborah sounded tired, smaller. She said child abuse out loud, like the words scraped her throat on the way out. For once, the apology didn't twist in circles. She said she was sorry. I believe she felt regret, but regret doesn't rebuild trust, not by itself. I told her I was glad she was getting help. I meant that. I also told her the boundary wasn't moving. I wasn't coming back. I wasn't doing dinners. I wasn't becoming her emotional support just because consequences finally landed. I said, forgiveness isn't something you earn by showing up. It's something I might find for myself, or I might not. She didn't push back. When we hung up, I didn't feel relief. No fireworks, just stillness. My life stayed mine. That was the revenge, if you want to call it that. Not ruining her, not chasing her, not living in her shadow. Just telling the truth, putting it on record, and refusing to carry her story ever again.